Yeah, so the main thing that I wanted to talk about in part two, I forgot, like normal, and I started talking about that remote viewing as a form of utilizing spirit particles, which is true. But here's one of the most amazing ones that goes to show you that when people witness the other side, or they witness super sensible phenomenon, it is for a reason. And the personality type that I talked about a couple clips ago from Kenneth Ring's Omega Project is dissociative personality. I've mentioned this in some older clips. I think those are all deleted. But dissociative personality means that it's almost like you have a color or something, like a special color that, if the necessary and sufficient conditions for your journey entail that you contact angelic beings, you would be more likely for this to happen than another person. That's peer-reviewed study, but they call it UFO contact, or people that have claimed to have been abducted. So, and then that's in the Omega Project book. But something that was amazing, and I can't quite remember what book this was in, because I read the near-death stuff back to back. Actually, I probably read too much of that stuff, and it almost became entertainment. And when you're doing esoteric research, it shouldn't become entertainment. So, but I think this was in the first Omega book, which was, I think, called Heading for Omega. I think it was like 1984. It was written, and then the follow-up was like early 90s. But I think that was the one where it mentioned something really significant, almost as significant as blind people being able to see during their near-death experience. A lady was giving a lecture, okay? I don't know if she was a professor. I forget exactly why she was giving a lecture, but she stood up in front of this crowd in an indoor auditorium, and all of a sudden, in the corner of the room, she saw a dead relative, clear as day. And I can't remember if they were fading in and out, because sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And after that, she was clairvoyant. This is extremely important. One of the most important examples. That it's also just like Anita Marjoni's, where, she's almost dead and then meets with these entities, remembers what went on, and comes back to tell people about it. There's certain individuals that are chosen to have these experiences because they can do something for it. They can contribute to the logos in a particularly significant way that can help others. And so this lady sees Mother. Again, that counts as light phenomenon, even if it looks regular and there's nothing mysterious about it. And you're like, okay, that's my mom, and there's no like see-through, invisible. That still counts as light phenomena, because it's an easy way, or you can just call it super sensible phenomenon. But when I say light phenomenon, this is important because I'm talking about positive phenomenon, positive light phenomenon that appears with people that either have the potential to see love and compassion in absolutely everything, or are already there. And so this lady, after having this experience that is not consistent with your normal, more theatrical versions like UFO contact or near death, or being in a hot spot trying to see something. This is just something that happened in normal everyday life, and it was in a setting where there was a bunch of people that couldn't see it. Think about remote viewing. These are all unique ways where people can tap into and access this dimension that we're all familiar with, but certain people are, they can if they want to. I don't want to say they absolutely have to, but they're given this potential to really help the planet. And in our current state, I believe there's people being given this option more so now because of the certain threats, because of technology going haywire. It's not just AI. It's sort of an accumulation of echo chamber culture, that's been going on for a while. And the danger of that is a whole generation, multiple generations are growing up being partially glued to some kind of not just electronic device, but being having a socioeconomic factor that we've never seen before. And so if you just take time to study the different types of phenomenon like that, I would suggest to everybody you read a book about near-death experiences, not just in an esoteric research frame of mind, but just because it helps you see all these similarities in where people go when they're given this option to go. And usually they have like a life review, and they have they either see or have the feeling of a divine presence next to them. And then a lot of people say that they understand the whole game. They understand everything about the universe, why we're here. They can experience everything in their life at the same time. And someone could say, well, what the hell is that? That's living outside of organic mind. When you're outside of mind, it's beyond any kind of explanation that we could ever come up with. And I also think that's why you get hazy about certain details when you've gone into extreme contact, like I have. I always, when I've gone into extreme holographic mode, a lot of times I have a hard time remembering what happened before it and what happened after it. And that's because, and I'm sorry, I'm running into a traffic thing here, but I just wanted to point that out. Think about that. Think about how you can be turned on, basically. And by the way, when people go through an NDE or something like that, and now they're clairvoyant, that's like having your spirit organ almost all the way unwound. To have it fully unwound, there has to be a dedication, discipline, and sacrifice in your everyday life. Like military, conditioning, spiritual conditioning. But that's pretty amazing, knowing that anyone has the potential to have, just by leading a certain life, just by seeing yourself and animals and even your enemies, you can turn yourself like a certain color. You can turn yourself into like this gold beacon that can signal to guides. I'm not asking. I'm telling you that's how it goes. So think about that. Lady just in an auditorium. It didn't mean she was going to die the next day or have some kind of horrible. Do I got 2 minutes? Yeah, let's talk about that. I actually had some stuff happen to me about 15, almost 20 years ago, where I had images showing up in my phone of horrendous-looking entities, and I had showed it to about 6 people. And a couple of them dropped the phone when they saw it. I would never do that nowadays. This is a long time ago. I didn't know what was going on. Well, what was happening was my life was surrounded in negativity. I was working at an inner city sketchy dancing club. I was managing that, partially a brothel. And, and then those pictures disappeared from my phone. The reason why I don't want to think about it, I was like, well, why am I seeing these characters? Does that mean I'm going to die or something? And no, 20 years later, no. So, yeah, So don't think if something like that happens to you, where all of a sudden you just see something and now you're clairvoyant, that means your time's almost up. So all kinds of different ways where that can happen.